One of the big questions that I get asked a lot when I'm talking to ECTs is about the assessment of that. So how do we actually assess children in an effective way as they're going through this sequence progress, as they're going through the sequence curriculum? Is there anything you can say around assessment at Key Stage 3 that you think is valued, worthwhile considering or exploring? Are there assessment models or approaches that you think are more effective than others? What does Key Stage 3 assessment look like to you?
What it should look like, again, going back to what, why and how, essentially. And the only thing I would say, and I've stuck by it for years and I'll continue to stick by it, is Dylan Williams and Frank Black, Inside the Black Box, assessment for learning. If you stick to those principles, it is so effective. So what are you assessing? Why are you assessing it? And how can you improve it? How can they improve it? Because what you're actually trying to do through assessment, through formative and summative assessment, is by the time they get into Key Stage 4, they need to be autonomous learners, because actually that's what Key Stage 4 is all about, isn't it? It's them driving rather than you. And so therefore, looking at those principles which were set out years and years ago, which I cannot find any fault with, would and should help students. If I do a presentation, I always go back to that. Some people have never even heard of it because they're new into teaching. But it is the fundamental of involving students in their own learning.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that at all. One final question. So at what age are students able to respond to a design problem or identify their own design problem? At what age should we bring this in? And I'm asking that with a bit of a tongue-in-cheek approach to this, because I know what I think your answer is going to be. But over to you.
When they first start school.
And why?
because go back to Ken Robinson, because they're the greatest kind of designers, because they're not shackled by other constraints. They're the risk takers. They're the ones who have a go at just about anything. They're the ones who don't have to worry about what the end product's going to look like. But once again, it's that whole principle of what, why and how, and allowing those students to build those skills. Because can you imagine if we actually did this, how your pupils at Key Stage 3 would be? Can you imagine that if we did that in schools, if we got more time and more, more kind of credibility from powers that be, that design and technology isn't just about making a bird box or whatever it is going to make, but it's about all the things we've talked about over the past hour. If you get those principles established at that age, and I know from my own grandchildren, watching how they learn and what they do, and watching now, the interesting thing is I've got one that's just gone, incidentally, to my old school in Leeds, which I thought was very weird, as they never lived in Leeds or anything like that, but that's where they ended up. And watching what she's making in design and technology, whilst it's nice for her, I would say that they really need to kick up the backside, because they're making the same old stuff. When you do what you've always done, you get what you've always got. And that's not what we are, is it? We should be teaching those skills from 5 years old, when kids are unfettered by all the issues that they're going to have later and later in life. Because actually, in the end, we should be teaching children to go into a world where there are jobs that we don't know already exist, that don't exist yet. And that's the challenge for our design and technology students, who will, given the right opportunities, fulfill those needs. And that's what the subject should be about. It's about changing the whole philosophy of design and technology. And I'm this little bloke on my own in the middle of nowhere who wants that vision to actually succeed. And, I've been battling away over the years trying to get that vision changed. And you're up against, we've discussed this, all sorts of barriers. The barriers don't just come from the powers that be above. There are professional bodies who don't want people to be able to think like that. It's prescriptive, isn't it? And people go to that prescription because they don't know any better. It's about changing the whole philosophy of design and technology, it isn't about designing and making. And if me wittering at you will help you in the future to do that, then good.